ever feel like, you're searching for something more? Like there's got to be like a deeper meaning to be uncovered, like within yourself.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going deep diving into the centuries-old guidebook for, that kind of journey, St. Teresa of Avila's interior castle. And to help us unpack this intricate masterpiece, we have with us an expert in contemplative prayer.
Hello.
So I know like 16th century texts might seem a little odd, I guess, to be like searching for deeper meaning in our modern world. But stick with me. This isn't about, dusty dogma, but about exploring this timeless landscape of the human soul. We're working with an excerpt from a summary of the book, along with our experts' insights, to give you a taste of Teresa's wisdom. And she uses this like powerful metaphor of a castle with many rooms, or mansions as she calls them, to represent stages of spiritual growth.
Yes.
So ready to step inside your own interior castle?
It's quite an adventure, isn't it? And like any good quest, it all starts with, understanding where you are on the map.
Yeah.
That's mansion one.
Right, taking stock of your spiritual starting point. And Teresa doesn't sugarcoat it. She like cuts right to the chase. Are you even trying to avoid sin, to connect with something bigger than yourself?
And what's so fascinating here is how she emphasizes, humility, but not in this like self-deprecating way. It's more about like, understanding your place in the grand scheme of things, recognizing that, we all have room to grow.
And that's actually a very modern idea, right? Like in therapy, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. And Teresa's saying you can't even begin this inner journey if you're not honest with yourself about where you're starting from.
Precisely. And she encourages us to compare ourselves, not to other people, but to the vastness of God's perfection. Not to make us feel small, but to highlight the areas where we can grow closer to that divine ideal.
It's like using a really, really high quality mirror. It shows you all the flaws, but not to make you feel bad, just so you know what needs work.
Right.
So once we've taken stock, where does this inner journey take us next?
On to mansion 2, where things get a little more relatable, perhaps. This is where Teresa describes that, that universal human experience, that inner tug-of-war between worldly temptations and spiritual aspirations.
Oh, I know that feeling well. It's like 1 minute I'm feeling all inspired to meditate and like eat green smoothies, and the next minute I'm like elbow deep in a bag of chips, scrolling endlessly on my phone.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
But how do we navigate this tug of war? The source mentioned something about like choosing our company wisely.
This is where Teresa's wisdom really shines through, even after all these centuries. She understood that the people we surround ourselves with, they have a profound impact on our inner lives.
It's like that saying, like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but applied to your soul.
Exactly. Think about it. If you're constantly surrounded by people who prioritize material possessions, superficiality, instant gratification, those values will inevitably kind of seep into your own consciousness, making it harder to hear that quieter, spiritual longing within.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So good company is key. What else can help us navigate this tricky terrain of mansion 2?
Teresa also emphasizes the importance of not shying away from difficulties.
Wait, really? Embrace the struggle. That seems a little counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It might seem that way at first, but consider this. When have you experienced the most growth in your own life? Wasn't it often through facing challenges, through pushing beyond your comfort zone?
That's a good point. It's like that saying, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. But are you saying that we should, actually seek out suffering?
Not quite. It's not about, actively seeking out suffering, but about changing our relationship to it. Instead of seeing difficulties as obstacles to our spiritual progress, what if we viewed them as opportunities for growth, for refining our character, for deepening our compassion?
I see what you mean. It's about finding the lesson in the struggle, right? And aligning our will with God's will in the process. So we're learning to navigate that inner tug of war, aligning our will with something bigger than ourselves. But what happens when we've been putting in the effort, trying to live a more virtuous life, but I don't know, something's still missing? That's where we find ourselves in Mansion 3, right?
Yeah, you could say it's a kind of spiritual plateau, like you're doing the right things, but, maybe without much joy, or like a real true connection. Teresa describes the people in this mansion as diligent, but maybe a bit, stuck.
Yeah, and the source we're looking at mentions this idea of aridity in prayer.
Right.
I've heard this term before. But it always seemed, I don't know, kind of intimidating, like a sign that, you're doing something wrong.
It's actually quite common, even among like seasoned spiritual seekers. It's that feeling of dryness, going through the motions of prayer without feeling that connection, that spark of divine presence.
Okay, so it's not just me, but if it's so common, why does it feel so discouraging? Like maybe you're just like not cut out for this whole spiritual thing.
Because we're so used to equating progress with, feeling good, with having these like peak experiences. But what Teresa reminds us is that true spiritual growth, it isn't always about feeling good. It's about, showing up consistently, even when it's hard.
Yeah.
Even when it feels, well, dry.
So instead of getting discouraged, we should see this dryness as what? Like a test of our commitment, a different stage of the journey.
You could see it that way, yeah. Teresa encourages us to approach this dryness with curiosity rather than judgment. So instead of thinking, I'm doing something wrong, ask yourself, what might this experience be trying to teach me? What might God be trying to communicate through this, the silence?
What's interesting, it's like instead of getting frustrated by the lack of fireworks, you're learning to like appreciate the quiet beauty of a starry night sky. So we're learning to like be present with whatever arises, even the uncomfortable stuff. But how do we move through this dryness, this feeling of being stuck?
This is where Teresa's emphasis on inward attention becomes so essential. She teaches us to cultivate a deep inner listening and attentiveness to the subtle movements of the spirit within.
This reminds me a lot of like mindfulness practices that are so popular today. Meditation, focusing on your breath. It's about being present in the moment without judgment and just seeing what arises.
Exactly. It's about shifting from, a doing-oriented spirituality to a being-oriented spirituality.
Wow.
So instead of trying to force our way to God through like, elaborate rituals or mental gymnastics, we're learning to simply be present, to listen deeply, and to trust that even in the silence, God is present.
Okay, I'm starting to see how even this experience of dryness, of feeling stuck, can actually be like a stepping stone to a deeper level of connection. It's like you're being pushed to go inward, to listen more deeply, to trust more fully. So we've moved through like the initial stages of self-assessment, navigated the inevitable challenges and temptations, and even learned to like befriend the dry spells. Where does this inner journey take us next?
Well, after the dryness of Mansion 3, prepare yourself for a taste of something truly extraordinary, Mansion 4, where Teresa describes the experience of infused contemplation.
Okay, I have to admit, infused contemplation sounds a bit like something you'd read in like a medieval alchemy textbook.
Yeah.
Can you break it down for us? What's actually happening here?
It's like moving from simply thinking about God to directly experiencing God's presence in a tangible, even like sensual way. Imagine that, instead of just talking about the ocean, you suddenly find yourself, swimming in it. That's the difference Teresa's trying to convey.
Wow, that's quite an image. So it's not just about like understanding God intellectually, but about feeling God's presence in a visceral, embodied way.
Precisely. And the source material we're working with, it mentions two specific types of infused prayer that Teresa describes: recollection and prayer of quiet.
Okay. So recollection and prayer of quiet. These aren't just like different meditation techniques, are they?
Good question. They're more like states of being,
Yeah.
gifts from God, really,
Yeah.
that arise spontaneously out of our willingness to, to surrender, to let go of our need to control the experience.
So we're talking about a whole other level of surrender here. It's not just about surrendering our will to God's will, but also surrendering our very experience to whatever God chooses to, grace us with.
Exactly. Think of it like this. You can prepare the soil, plant the seeds, water them diligently, but you can't force a flower to bloom. That's up to nature, to a power greater than ourselves.
I see what you mean. So with recollection and prayer of quiet, we're entering a realm where we're not just like asking for things or trying to figure things out, but simply like opening ourselves to receive whatever gifts of grace God chooses to bestow upon us.
Yes.
This is where things start to get really interesting, when you say. And we're just getting started. We still have 3 more mansions to explore, each one like more profound than the last. But first, we're going to take a quick break. Stick around, because when we come back, we'll be venturing even deeper into the mystical landscape of St. Teresa's interior castle. And we're back, continuing our exploration of St. Teresa's interior castle. We've journeyed from the foundational work of self-awareness through those challenges and dry spells, even got a glimpse of something more profound in Mansion 4.
Yes.
But Teresa's journey doesn't stop there. does it?
Not at all. In fact, you could say things, really start to heat up from here.
Yeah.
Mansions 5 and 6 are where Teresa describes these increasingly profound experiences of union with the divine.
It's like we're moving from like simply swimming in the ocean to like scuba diving in the Marianas Trench. These are the deep waters of mystical experience, right?
Exactly. And Teresa writes about these experiences with such vivid detail. You get the sense that she's not just, speculating. She's speaking from direct personal knowledge.
Okay, so let's dive into Mansion 5. What's the headline here?
Imagine a spiritual betrothal.
Right.
A union with the divine, so profound, so intimate that it's like being engaged to be married, but instead of a human partner, it's the divine itself.
Wow, that's quite an image. The source mentions things like ecstasies and rapture. We're talking about a whole other level of experience here, right?
Right.
These are states where the soul is so overcome by the presence of God that the outside world it just fades away. The senses become almost irrelevant compared to the intensity of this inner experience.
It's like the volume of everyday life just gets turned way down, and the only thing you can hear is this symphony of the soul.
Yes.
This might sound kind of strange to some people,
Yeah.
but I think we can all relate to those moments where we get so caught up in something, a beautiful piece of music, a breathtaking view, a moment of deep connection with another person, that everything else just seems to fall away. Is that kind of what Teresa's talking about here, but on an entirely different level?
That's a great analogy, and yes, she's describing something far more intense, more all-encompassing than anything we typically experience in our in our ordinary lives. But the core principle is similar: a complete absorption in something beyond ourselves.
Okay, so that's Mansion 5, spiritual betrothal, ecstatic experiences. What about Mansion 6? How does that deepen the journey?
Think of it as like the consummation of that spiritual marriage.
Yeah.
If Mansion 5 is the engagement, Mansion 6 is the wedding ceremony. It's the complete and utter union of the soul with God.
And again, Teresa is speaking from personal experience here. This wasn't just a theory or a concept for her. She lived these experiences as challenging and even overwhelming as they might have been.
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge that for some people, the idea of such complete union with the divine, it might be intimidating, even scary. It's like, what happens to your sense of self, your individuality?
It's a very insightful question, and
Yeah.
it's something Teresa addresses directly in her writing. She emphasizes that this union doesn't erase the individual soul, but rather it elevates it, it expands it.
It's like two candles coming together. Instead of diminishing each other's light, they create an even brighter flame.
I like that image.
Mm-hmm.
And what's remarkable is that even as she describes these incredible experiences, Teresa never loses sight of the importance of humility.
It's like even at the highest peaks of spiritual experience, there's still this recognition that we're always learning, we're always growing, we're never done on this journey.
Exactly, and that brings us to the final destination on our tour of the interior castle, Mansion 7.
Okay, we've reached the inner sanctum. What awaits us here?
This is the pinnacle of spiritual union.
Oh,
The complete and utter merging with the divine. Teresa describes it as a state of indescribable bliss, a kind of heaven on earth.
so no more struggles, no more dry spells, just pure bliss. Sign me up.
Well, it's not quite as simple as that. Even in this final mansion, there are challenges and complexities.
Okay, so what's the catch? What makes Mansion 7 so challenging?
Remember, we're talking about a level of union with the divine that's almost beyond human comprehension.
Yeah.
It's a state of being so radically different from our everyday experience that it can be difficult to integrate into our ordinary lives.
It's like coming back from this incredible journey to a foreign land. You've been changed by the experience, but how do you bring that back and share it with others who haven't been where you've been?
Exactly. And that's the challenge of Mansion 7. It's not about, escaping the world or becoming some kind of spiritual superhero. It's about learning to embody that deep inner peace, that radiant love in every aspect of our lives.
Even the grocery shopping and the laundry.
Especially the grocery shopping and the laundry. Because that's where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? That's where we demonstrate whether we've truly integrated these experiences into the fabric of our being.
I love that. So it's not about becoming some kind of like spiritual superstar,
Hmm.
but about showing up fully, authentically in every moment with that same love and presence that we've cultivated through this inner journey.
Beautifully put. And I think that's one of the most powerful and enduring messages of St. Teresa's interior castle. It's not some, esoteric concept reserved for monks and mystics.
Yeah.
It's a journey that's available to all of us, regardless of our, our background or our beliefs.
And it's a journey that starts right here, right now, with the willingness to turn inward, to explore the vast landscape of our own souls. We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? We've traveled through all 7 mansions of Saint Teresa's interior castle, exploring the challenges and the triumphs of the spiritual journey. A huge thank you to our expert for guiding us through this intricate and inspiring terrain. You've given us so much to think about, so many new ways to approach our own inner journeys.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as enriching and inspiring as we have. And if this conversation has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to explore St. Teresa's interior castle for yourself. You might be surprised by what you discover within your own inner chambers. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking that deeper meaning that resides within you.